account here, the Podbean account, and the website where I publish my writings and the writings of others. Well, ladies and gentlemen, okay, first of all, let me apologize for being absent this last week. I've been extremely busy here. Winter has kind of tapped us on the shoulder up here in beautiful North Idaho. Had some cold weather blow in that reminded me that I had a few chores that I needed to get hold of before Old Man Winter finally did arrive, because once Old Man Winter does arrive up here in North Idaho, whatever you needed to get done before his arrival will not get done. It's just as simple as that. So I've been busy, obviously, for the last few days, taking care of some chores on the home front. As well, ladies and gentlemen, I've been dealing with some other issues here, which we are going to be covering in today's program. I alluded to these issues in the last show that I did with Mike Piper and my very good friend Keith Johnson of revoltoftheplebs.wordpress.com, where I was talking about a particular individual who I planned on discussing on this program, because this particular individual and I have come to an impasse in terms of what each of us considers to be the proper protocol for this movement. Now, before I get into this, ladies and gentlemen, let me say I take no pleasure in doing things like this. I consider internecine squabbles to be extremely unproductive, a great waste of resources and time and energy when we have very pressing things to deal with. But at the same time, ladies and gentlemen, we should not make the mistake of lessening the importance of this thing that we are involved in to the point where we don't want to do these maintenance updates. Imagine, if you would, for a moment, that you're in this car and you're going to be taking a long trip, long road trip, particularly maybe we'll say out west, where it is relatively unpopulated as compared to the eastern part of the United States, and where rest stops and other forms of civilization sometimes can be as much as 100 miles apart. Well, when you're on one of these trips like this, you need to make sure that your car is in tip-top shape, because you don't know if you're going to come up on a rest stop or some other place where they have services that you may need. So let's make sure that the tires are full, that the spare is full. You've got a good kit for changing a tire if it blows. Make sure your oil is good, your transmission fluid is good, your coolant is good, okay? And particularly if the car starts to make some kind of funny noise. You know, when machinery starts making funny noises, that's an indication that something's going wrong. Like a bad fan belt or a bad ball bearing, something like that. And even though it may not be a major problem now, you get yourselves into a road trip and it starts making funny noises like this, and you're hundreds of miles away from civilization, you could find yourself in a world of hurt. Well, it is like that with this machinery that we call our movement, ladies and gentlemen. When the machinery starts making funny noises, we need to stop whatever it is we're doing and we need to check it out. Because that little squeak or that little grind today may turn into something tragic within just a few hours. And unfortunately, or rather, I changed my mind. I don't say unfortunately, I say thank God. Thank God we had an event like that take place this week. The soundbite you heard at the beginning of the program was from Jeff Rense's radio program last night. Someone sent this to me. I don't listen to Jeff Rense except when my good friend Hisham Talawi is on the program. Rense started off his program speaking very cryptically, but I understood immediately what he was talking about when he said, when he discussed the terminal madness of the end times. And he says it's downright crazy out there, chasing friends and allies and Confederates. What he was talking about, ladies and gentlemen, is this latest contention between him and me that had its climax yesterday morning when Jeff Rense, in a phone conversation to me, said that he was going to call not only the FBI, but the Department of Homeland Security, and he was going to have them come and pay me a visit. Now, what did I do to warrant this? Did I threaten to kill Jeff Rense? Did I threaten to blow up his home or his car? No. What I did, ladies and gentlemen, and this has been a long developing situation between him and me, what I did is I said, Jeff, I no longer can tolerate the fact that you are running these articles on your website that are being provided by the very same enemy all of us are risking our life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness in fighting. These articles in question are of the typical neocon Zionist anti-Islamic slant. And I have been politely tapping him on the shoulder for several years now, ever since he really started running these things on a regular basis. And I said, Jeff, do you think that this is a wise thing to do? After all, we know that these articles are nothing but propaganda that is being spewed out in the interests of, let's just call it for what it is, for blinding the American people, throwing sand in their eyes, as it were, so that they cannot think clearly enough and they cannot discern. And then the next thing you know, they're signing over their paycheck in the form of taxes, or they're sending their loved ones off to go and fight these wars for Israel. Rense's response was always a typical, oh, I want to provide balance, and let's not forget that the First Amendment is the most important thing we have in this battle, blah, blah, blah. I never bought into it, but I didn't see at that time any use in getting yet another big fight started within our movement. Well, about a month ago, he ran a piece on his website that was so over the top that you would think that it was some form of satire. That's how over the top it was in propagating all of this neocon, Zionist, anti-Islamic nonsense. I mean, it was everything except that the Muslims eat their children after they get done sodomizing them and killing them. That's how over the top it was. Now, this took place. He ran this article in the aftermath of the cabbie in New York who had his throat slashed. Remember that? A couple months ago. And just a few days after, a car was torched in the parking lot at the Lafayette, Louisiana Islamic Center. That happens to be the place of worship of someone who is like a brother to me, Hishem Talawi. And I contacted Rense and I said, listen, you running these articles, you are contributing to this hysteria that is getting people hurt. Every day in this country, some Muslim is being beaten up, some house or place of business or a mosque is being set on fire, bullets are being fired through the windows of people's homes. As I mentioned, you had this cab driver who had his throat slashed. Thank God he lived through it. And then, closer to home, our good friend Hishem Talawi had a car torched in the parking lot at his Islamic Center in Lafayette, Louisiana. Rense's response throughout all of this was, oh, let's not forget the First Amendment, and I'm providing balance here. And in what turned out to be a heated exchange between him and me, back and forth with these emails, where I told him, I said, look, Jeff, I don't buy it anymore. You don't provide balance to the truth with lies. And as far as freedom of speech goes, that there is also this thing known as responsible journalism. You see, I can't go into a court of law, put my hand on the Bible and raise my other hand and swear to tell the truth and then lie about it and then claim that I was exercising my right to free speech. You do that, that's known as perjury, and you'll go to jail for it. Nor can I, under the auspices of the First Amendment and freedom of speech, nor can I publish material that is false and defamatory about somebody, leading to his character being ruined and possibly his ability to provide for himself being affected. You know, that's what's known as slander and libel, and you can be sued for that. And you can't claim the First Amendment and freedom of speech as your defense. I couldn't have an article appear on my website that I wrote or that someone else wrote that claimed that Jeff Rense was a pedophile or an embezzler or a wife-beater when it wasn't true. That would be deliberately defaming his character. And yet he will use his website and his radio program as a bullhorn for these neocon, Zionist, racist, hate-mongering, war-mongering articles and individuals such as Debbie Kidd and Frosty Woolridge. He will use his website for this. And I finally told him, I said, look, you are endangering my friends and you're making our job much more difficult. All of us who are out here, the Bucket Brigade, trying to douse this building that has been deliberately set on fire, to keep this burning building from spreading to the rest of the town where all of our homes are going to be burned down, we're all out here tossing water on this fire trying to get it put out, and you're bringing up buckets of gasoline. So I told him that if he didn't stop running these articles, that I was going to exercise my freedom of speech and my First Amendment rights, and I was going to publicly move against him. Well, what happened is that in this email I sent to Rense, that I copied a few of my friends on, it started this little discussion within certain Islamic chat rooms, and apparently Jeff Rense spends a good portion of his day researching himself on the internet because he ran into these discussions about him taking place in these Muslim chat rooms. And the next thing I know, the phone rings yesterday morning, and it's David Duke. And David Duke wants to talk about this situation between me and Jeff Rense. Now, this was the fourth time in about as many weeks as I have heard from David Duke on this issue. First time he called me, I was walking out of church with my children. I had my phone off, and then I turned it on. And there's David Duke, and he said, listen, you know, Jeff is a real sensitive guy, and he's very fragile. And his feelings are really hurt over you putting pressure on him to stop running these anti-Islamic articles. And I said, you know, first I had to look around to make sure that I wasn't hearing this, that it wasn't just my imagination. And I said, David, there's something wrong with this picture here. I said, I'm pretty sure that Jeff Rense is a grown man and that he can